Hello, everybody. It is MattyIce alongside with his favorite dog. Say hello, Bella. Bella's here, and so am I. And I'm here bringing you my second tier list ever. This is the Season 8 kind of Dinger City in correspondence with online netplay Project Rio post release tier list. So, a lot of things have changed since the last tier list. Definitely, my opinion's been swayed a bit. If y'all don't know, between the last tier list I made, I am now a Netplay Superstars champion, so finally have some more credibility to my name. But this tier list is going to be kind of similar to the last one in terms of how it's going to be broken down. I'm going to start from the bottom to the top. Last one I did a PowerPoint presentation, is a bit more, I guess, somewhat professional besides the audio quality. This audio quality is a lot better, so I hope y'all enjoy that. But I wanted to make this faster, a bit of a faster video, because the last tier list kind of dragged on a bit in my opinion. I think it was a little over 40 minutes. I wanted this to be a little bit quicker, a little bit more easier to consume and digest. So, yeah, we're going to get things started with the Should Never Sniff the Field tier list, my favorite tier list. And we have Paragoomba. Paragoomba's still at the bottom. He just doesn't do much. His slap hit sucks. His chemistry sucks. His wind up to throw sucks. He doesn't have a good dive range. I've played a few games with him recently, trying to test him out. He just shouldn't sniff the field, doesn't offer anything else that other people do. Next up, Baby Luigi. Baby Luigi, again, his bat holds him back. I'd say it's a little better than Paragoomba's in my opinion. That's not saying much. He's pretty much only ahead of Paragoomba because he has 8 speed and he has wall jump, but there's so many other better wall jumpers and he doesn't really fit a niche team, so that's why he's in this tier. Next up, we have Koopa Troopa. Koopa still sucks. Bowser chemistry is all he has. Slap hit, still kind of stinky. His best position is second base, but there's so many better second basemen in such an important position that he just really doesn't have a viable spot on the field. Next up, Toad. Toad, awful fielder. He does have home run potential, I'll give him that. If you're good with him, get perfect contact, you can hit home runs with him. Does have the same power level as Pianta, I believe, even though he's a balanced character, so that's always good. But his hitbox it's good if you're not Red Toad. If you're Red Toad, you do get an advantage at batting because you can kind of have more of an extended bat reach because Red Toad's hitbox is smaller, so he's able to lean in on the inside of the plate. So it's kind of a weird vice versa kind of thing where all the other color Toads are better at fielding because they have their bigger hitbox, but because their hitbox is bigger in the batter's box, they can't get more close to the plate when they try to swing. So it's a weird kind of interesting programming thing they decided to do with Toad, but regardless, all he has is body check, and it's not viable enough in the meta for him to be pickable. And unfortunately, Peach teams are not really meta viable either, so that's why he's in Should Never Sniff the Field. And lastly, in the Should Never Sniff the Field, and it breaks my heart to say this, it's my boy Monty Mole. I have picked him in a few games recently. He's been putting in work for me, but Goomba's just a better player overall. Even though I think Monty Mole's slap hit is better than Goomba's, Goomba has he just outclasses Monty Mole. And Monty Mole really gets hindered because his speed was programmed incorrectly. In game, it shows he has 7 speed, but in the actual data and the programming, his speed is only 6. So he's pretty much on par with Red Noki and Green Noki for speed, and that's just not good enough. His chemistry, all he has is Shy Guy and Goomba, I believe. I think he has one more, but all of his chemistry is not meta viable, so kind of sucks. Next, we have the niche character tier list or niche character tiers for specific team compositions. So these are kind of like your last pick options on a very specific team. Here we have Baby Mario. I've decided to bump up Baby Mario whole tier because the singles bat is pretty good. He has the standard speed for a speed character. It's just his hitbox is so small. But, you know, if you have Yoshi playing shortstop for whatever reason, and you have Baby Mario in right field, his third or second base is a little bit better. So you got that going for you, but it's very niche. That's why I have him at the bottom of the very niche tier. Next up, we got my man Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. kind of around the same spot as last time. He's really only pickable on a Bowser team, specifically if you have a Bowser Bro core. If you end up with the Bowser team, you can stick him in right field. He has wall jump and body check. Body check not too viable, but wall jump, it catches balls, gets the jobs done on a Bowser team. But that's really the only time you should be picking him. His singles bat, it's actually not that bad. It's a bit hard to master. If you push it, it can be very consistent. It's kind of, I find his bat sort of similar to Pink Menace's, where you can kind of get jammed a bit and you have to really understand his contact zone. So it's a pretty hard bat to master. It's really only worth it if you're picking the Bowser team majority of the time. So if not, if you don't like the Bowser team, then Bowser Jr. may not be wise to invest time into and pick him. Next up, we got Goomba. Now, I love me some Goomba. He's probably my second or third favorite pitcher if I don't end up with a Boo pitcher or even Waluigi. Goomba, what makes him so great, for at least for these kind of niche scenarios, is he has ball dash, and having him, and since he's sort of a okay pitcher for specific situations, all you have to do is press B on the pitcher's mound, and if someone pressed Y a bit too early to try and steal, you can ball dash him, and it's a free out. You don't even have to you don't even have to do a pickoff throw to first. Just do the ball dash, easy out. And a singles bat's kind of okay. I do prefer Monty Mole's singles bat a bit more, but he's basically here for a gimmicky pitcher. He shouldn't be used too often in competitive games. He's really just like maybe if you're playing like a best of 5 series at least, you kind of stick him in there for one game at pitcher to maybe throw off the timing. But even then, Goomba's tricks are pretty gimmicky with his charge pitches, and it can against a good player can get beaten out pretty easily. So that's why I only have him in the niche tier. Next up, we got my boy Shy Guy. I love Shy Guy. Last tier list video, I famously claimed he had a top 5 singles bat in the game. Now that's probably a stretch, I will say, so I'll lower it down to top 10. Shy Guy's singles bat is very good. It's just what holds him back is his main ability is sliding catch, but you can't even play him at positions that require sliding catch the most. His dive range is very pitiful. He has a small hitbox. Really, the only time I ever draft Shy Guy is if I'm in a situation where I have a Birdo team, Birdo captain, and I need a first baseman, and I'll throw Shy Guy there for the Birdo throw chemistry from shortstop. Other than that, Shy Guy really shouldn't have any place in the field. And lastly, we have Dixie Kong. Now, Dixie Kong, I think is one of the most interesting characters to try and rank on a tier list because her and Diddy Kong are very similar. They're both monkey characters, both have clamber. It's just Diddy Kong gets more of a benefit by having a banana star swing, whereas her star swing doesn't do much. It's not the line drive star swing. But I think her pitching is good if you are a preferable Boo pitcher. Now, I personally haven't invested too much time into Dixie Kong just because I don't like her bat that much. I just prefer other push hitters. But for those that can make Dixie Kong work, her pitching is definitely slightly different than Diddy Kong's. It's honestly really hard to rate Dixie Kong. I just have her here because, in my opinion, Diddy Kong is just a slightly better version of Dixie Kong. That's only because of Diddy Kong's star abilities. So next we have the end of draft picks to round out your team tier. Now, I know this may be weird, but I moved up Peach a whole 2 tiers off of Should Never Sniff the Field. And the reason for moving Peach up, it might be some recency bias since I've been playing her a bit recently in some friendly games. But her singles bat is honestly not that bad. She has a great contact zone on her bat, one of the best in the game. It's just what holds her back is her bat range is so short. She can't really hit the outside pitches too well. But honestly, I've kind of been thinking about this for a while. Her 2 abilities are super catch and quick throw. And quick throw, great for double plays. So I honestly don't mind her at second base if for some reason you or if you prefer over Daisy. And I don't mind Peach because of the super catch, because there's so many games at top level where both players are playing optimally out of their mind, and next thing you know, there's a slap hit going right to your middle infielder and they bobble it. And it's like, and that's how you can lose a game. Whereas a character with super catch, she doesn't bobble. It's a great reassurance to have, especially on those pity little dribblers where you're kind of rushing in towards the ball trying to field it. She won't bobble it. She'll field it cleanly every time, and that can be the difference in a game. I still think I considered putting her in the very niche tier, but I think super catch alone puts her enough to be kind of at the end of draft pick to say, hey, I need a second baseman still. I'm maybe playing against a really good, and like, she's very tall still. Her dive kind of similar to Daisy's. Daisy does get to a bit more balls in my experience, but just something about super catch, man. It's reliable. It's refreshing to have. So that's pretty much why I have Peach up here. I like her singles bat a lot. Her reach is more to be desired, but that's pretty much why she's held back in comparison to Daisy. But if you prefer super catch, then I think Peach is definitely pickable by all means as a 9th pick, which is a lot saying since she was near the bottom previously, but I think Peach is a fine character. I think she gets way too much hate. Quick throw is still just as good as Daisy. Super catch is so criminally underrated in the infield, and it's a shame that all the super catch characters can't play the infield that well. And in my opinion, Peach probably plays it the best at second base out of all the super catch characters. Next up, we have Paratroopa, and you can see that he's not even in my meta, which is, I know it's very weird to say. Paratroopa is pretty much a consensus borderline top 15 pick for most other people, but in my opinion, he's the worst out of the 1-star swingers just because I can't hit with him. I don't like him. I'm so down the 1-star swingers, and you see because they're all in this tier kind of at the end of draft, or if you pick them, it's fine, but I don't make it a priority, in my opinion, to pick them because Paratroopa, he does give you Bowser chemistry, so say you draft a Bowser team, and sure, Paratroopa helps with the team stars. I just don't think his singles bat is consistent. He does have a great throwing arm in the outfield, which is very nice to have, but he only has super jump. And you mainly want your outfielders to have wall jump to robbing home runs. Now, super jump still can do it on a very minimal selection of home run balls, but pretty much in every scenario, wall jump's just better. To me, it's just a singles bat holds him back, and he does still have 6 speed, which is pretty good. It's just I can't justify picking him over the other star swingers if I choose to. Next up, we got Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong, what many people consider to be easily top 2 pitcher in the game. Some people prefer him as their favorite just because he has a lot of curve on his ball. It's a little bit slower than Boo's pitch, and he can manipulate the ball a lot more as it's about to come across the plate. I personally, I'm not a big Diddy Kong guy. I've always been a Boo guy, still am a Boo guy. But Diddy Kong, if you don't draft him as a pitcher, he does play center field tremendously. He has 7 speed. Clamber, which isn't relevant in the meta because we're still playing on Mario Stadium. Now, say we're playing on Bowser Castle or Peach Garden with very high outfield walls, then maybe Diddy Kong could climb up in the meta more. But he's pretty much drafted as a pitcher, and if he gets tired, you stick him out in center field. So he does have a backup position, which is nice. Star Swing, it's really not that good in my opinion. It hangs in the air too long, easily catchable. Now, if you can master it, it can land, and I've seen it happen. It's just compared to Donkey Kong's, it's so much less consistent. I mean, and Diddy Kong's singles bat, it's so small and so tiny. Pretty much my strategy for Diddy Kong is just always pitch him inside, try to jam him, because Diddy Kong is pretty good at pushing the ball kind of on those outside pitches. I just think Diddy Kong's a liability at the plate. His 7 speed is nice, can steal bases. I do like that. If I draft Diddy Kong, I'm pretty much drafting him as an outfielder if I want to try and snipe a top-tier pitcher from my opponent. That's pretty much the only reason why I draft Diddy Kong, so that's why I have him at the end of draft tier. Next up, we got Green Noki, but in my opinion, this color should be blue, but only if you have PM on your team. Green Noki's still fine. I'd probably still draft Green Noki if I don't have PM on my team, but her 1-star is awful. Sure, it can still land for singles, but it's definitely the worst 1-star swing out of all the star swingers, unless you count Boomerang Bro. I'd say Boomerang Bros is probably the worst. But out of the main 1-star swingers, Noki's is definitely the worst. The reason why I have her above Paratroopa is because if you play her blue, she has 7 speed. But if not, same speed as Paratroopa. But she does have sliding catch. Her dive range is pretty good. She makes for a tremendous outfielder, in my opinion. But on her singles bat, it's very poopy. You'll really only draft her for Pianta chemistry to help boost him up more. But other than that, she's fine. She can play the field. It's just her bat's so bad, and that's why I have her at the end of the draft. Next up, we got my man Dry Bones. Dry Bones, great singles hitter. He has a lot of strong contact on his bat. Like, if you kind of get jammed with him, he can still swing, and it kind of gives you that nice contact still to push it just into the outfield. He has a great singles bat. His 1-star's kind of okay. It's about mid-tier out of all the 1-star swingers. But his dive range sucks. He can't play the field. And other than his bat reach being awful and not being able to hit outside pitches that well, his fielding is the biggest liability he has. Slow speed, his sliding catch is awful, horrendous dive range. He has Bowser chemistry, so if you're building a Bowser team, sure, if you want to pick him to play center field, please don't ever play him in the infield. I see so many people play Dry Bones in the infield. He's not good. His hitbox is small. His sliding catch sucks. I have him at the end of the draft because, again, I'm just down on the 1-star swingers in general of like the main trio. So that's obviously most of these people would probably have Dry Bones, Noki, Paratroopa up a tier. It's just me personally. I don't enjoy spending 1 star just to get a line out double play in the infield. I just it's an inning killer. It's not worth it. I just would much prefer to just slap with them honestly and just keep rallies going that way, not wasting stars and saving my stars for better captain characters. But yeah, Dry Bones, he's still a good character, but is I just don't like the 1 star swingers. Next up, we got Toadette. Now, Toadette's such an interesting character. Obviously, I'd say she's most famous for her 9 speed being tied with Yoshi. Second, with how unique she is, she's the only non-captain character with 2 abilities. She has sliding catch and she has wall jump. Now, her sliding catch dive range is pretty awful, which is unfortunate. But I mean, she still has 9 speed, so she gets to a lot of balls in the outfield. She does have some exclusive catches, but majority of the time it's you have Yoshi or bust in terms of catching like the near impossible fly balls. Her singles bat is awful. Her bat reach is awful. Struggles with the outside part of the plate. But that 9 speed, man, it's deadly. If you can get her on base, steal second base for free as long as your opponent doesn't have PD. And I like her. I like her as an outfielder. Now, Mario's always my preferred right fielder, but if someone drafts Mario and say you have a pretty good offensive team already in your draft and you want some defensive buff, I think Toadette's a fine pick in right field. She plays the outfield great. It's just her bat's a bit of a liability, but you can still make it work, and she's deadly on the base path, so that's why I have Toadette in this tier. And next up, before I get into Luigi, I have to give a special shout out to Baltor33. I have trash talked Luigi for a good few months now, saying I had him down on this tier and should never sniff the field because in my opinion, he's just a worse version of Mario. Now that still stands, but let me tell you, when I watch Baltor33 use the sticks and play with Luigi, he made Luigi look completely viable. He can play right field. He does have wall jump. His wall jump goes higher, but like the hitbox, it's so weird. It's pretty inconsistent. That's why I don't like him that much. But he also has super jump, so if you want to, you don't have to play him in the outfield. Instead, play him at first base. And he can catch balls that way with a super jump. His singles bat, it's standard. It's fine. I mean, it's not nothing to write home about, but it's definitely a comfort bat, you know. A lot of people like him a lot. But watching Baltor just slap the ball for singles with Luigi so many games in a row. He made a couple of great plays at first base too. He's not a bad first baseman, just not my preferred choice. He's definitely a solid player. I do think he's at the point where he could be seeing the field every game as a must-draft character, but I still think there's better defensive options in both of the main positions he plays. But if you need like a last resort first baseman or right fielder, I think Luigi's a fine pick. I'll never trash talk anyone for picking Luigi. He's definitely a competent character, and I'm happy to see how far he's moved up on my list. And that rounds out the end of draft tier. Next up, we got the supporting characters that strengthen the top 8 core tier. Again, another surprise up here. I also had Daisy at the should never sniff the field tier. I moved Daisy all the way up because I've been seeing a lot more Dinger City games. A lot of people are picking Daisy. She has a good sliding catch. She has quick throw. She does make some double plays that, let's say, if you have Wario at second base, Wario's not really going to be able to turn the ball fast enough to throw to first base. So Daisy does give you extra outs that way. She's tall. It's just I wish her hitbox wasn't so skinny, but if you're a really good player, that shouldn't affect you because you should be able to get in front of the ball every time, at least ones that are within Daisy's reach. And I think, and playing with her a bit, her singles bat, I mean, famously enough, in my last game I played in the Netplay tournament that I won, I stuck Daisy in left field, which is not the best position for her at all, but my middle infield was already solid. I was looking at all the remaining options. I just wanted a nice singles bat. You want to go, Belle? All right. Belle's going to leave. She wants to go. Everyone give a round of applause to Belle the dog. But back to Daisy. I did like her singles bat. I think it's decent. It's not my favorite singles bat in the world, but it's standard solid. I kind of compare it to Luigi, a nice balanced singles bat. But it's just what can hold her back sometimes is her anti. So say if you have like a Wario, Petey, a lot of anti characters that Daisy has. If she's throwing the ball from second base, anti can activate, and that can cause the double play to not be successful. Because by the time the ball gets there, the runner's already at first base, and the first baseman's off the bag. But say if you drafted Luigi though, play Luigi at first base, now you just strengthen Daisy because she has chemistry with Luigi, and all their throws are they're not going to miss. They're going to make it to first base and faster too, so you'll get even more double plays that way. So a Daisy Luigi infield core on the right side of the infield is definitely an interesting rise in the meta, and I think that alone is definitely reasonable to push them up from all the way up here, kind of towards this middle tier range. So Daisy and Luigi, from the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry for claiming that you should have never sniffed the field. You two are definitely viable characters, and I will not scoff at anyone who picks either Daisy or Luigi. Next up, we got Wario. Now, Wario, I feel like has been getting a lot of unnecessary hate recently. I still like Wario. If I need a second baseman in the end, I don't mind picking Wario, mainly if it's a specific core I'm able to draft, mainly the Wario, Waluigi, Boo core. Also throw in Magikarp if you get him. But Wario's charge swing, it's not great. He can't really hit home runs unless you have the Boo Waluigi core and you get him on base. He can become a home run threat that way. His singles bat, it's not that great either. It can hang up a bit. It's very inconsistent. He's a very hard character to use, but I think what keeps his value so great is his horizontal range is ridiculous. His sliding catch is crazy. He gets to a lot of balls that I'd say a Daisy doesn't necessarily get to, especially a Pianta doesn't get to. And I think that alone still holds a lot of value, in my opinion. And because his chemistry is so good with some other high tier characters like Boo, like Waluigi, I think it's still definitely viable for him to be kind of in this higher tier still. I understand if people don't want to pick Wario anymore, they're sick of him. They want to strictly just commit to PM, or a lot of people are now on the Daisy train on second base. I understand it. Personally, I still think Wario has value as a character. And I definitely still think, depending on drafts, well, not necessarily depending on drafts, he's definitely still a great character. His sliding catch is just too good for him not to drop a tier. I can see why other people prefer other second basemen. I think at this point, Wario is a preference pick. You pick him. He's still a great fielder. If you don't like his bat, you just would rather trade a better, well, not necessarily better, but a bat you're more preferred with, like Daisy or Pianta, then I understand. But I don't think Wario should be all the way down here in other tiers. I know some people just think he's out of the meta. I don't think Wario's out of the meta. He's still a perfectly fine character. Next up, we got his friend, brother, Waluigi. I'm very high on Waluigi. I always have been. I just think Waluigi's such a great value of a character. He's tall. He has super jump. He has laser. Granted, his laser's kind of noodle laser, but it's still a solid laser nonetheless, especially if it's coming from first base. The distance isn't as far as, say, or as compared to throwing it from a cutoff man position or second base position. Waluigi just plays such a good first base. Super jump catches a lot of balls. If you have Magikarp at third base, say a lot of people going for bunt base hits, Magikarp can field it. Chemistry throw to Waluigi at first, gets the out every time. Wario at second base, if you're turning a double play, this is the argument with Daisy with the quick throw. Daisy gets a lot of quick throw double plays. Well, if you have Waluigi at first base, Wario's chemistry throw from second base, it's not gonna cost Wario double plays like, say, if he didn't have a chemistry partner at first base would have. So Waluigi, just so good. His singles bat, some people don't like it. I personally love a singles bat. If you push the ball, it's such a nice, juicy single almost every time. He has a great contact zone on his bat. And I just like him. So next up, we got Mario. I love Mario. I think he's the best right fielder in the game. No questions asked. Most consistent wall jumper. Such a standard bat. His fireball is so good. It's not good. It's not so good. It's okay. I feel like Mario's Fireball at times can get hit to an infielder. They just jump up, goes in the air, and you can get double plays that way. But if it goes through, it can drive in 2 or more runs. It's his just wall jump, I think, is so understated of how consistent it is, and it's funny because his wall jump like goes like the shortest height wise when he jumps off the wall. But if you get it to activate an instant wall jump range, it's so consistent. He has nice sliding catch too in the outfield. His dive range isn't too bad. It's definitely not like a Paragoomba dive range or even a Toadette or a Dry Bones dive range. It's a nice solid dive range. Say you're playing Luigi first base, Mario from right field throwing it to first base. Again, that adds more value to Luigi. So just Mario, such a solid character, best wall jumper in the game, and that alone, I think, is the reason why he should be picked every single game. Now we're moving on to my famous kind of top 11 I've claimed and kind of been trying to get everyone to agree with and realize that these 3 and then the next 8 up here are the top 11. But I've kind of changed my opinion in terms of how much of a gap there is between the middle of the top 11. So here we got PM, Pianta, Pink Menace. We know him, we love him. Famously at the bottom of the first Stinger City tier list. He's definitely solid as the number 11 best player in the game. He's a half heavy, a mini heavy, can hit home runs. You gotta pull the ball. If you have Noki on base, makes it a bit more consistent. His dive range is good. His hitbox, it's okay. Towards the top where his kind of palm tree is, the ball can clip through that sometimes. So there are a rare amount of balls that Pianta will jump up to try to catch, but he just won't. But his laser is his main saving grace. He has a great throwing arm, and maybe you want to play him at catcher. He has 80 throwing arm, so play him at catcher. That can prevent steals that way. But his main value is at second base or shortstop, depending on if you didn't get a good shortstop like a Donkey Kong or a Birdo. But his lasers is just so good. He's able to hit home runs, which is very important. It's just not consistent. But if he can get the low line drive for singles, that's also great too. Pink Menace is such a great character. Next up, we got number 10, Toadsworth. Toadsworth's up here because of his singles bat. It's so good. Statistically, across the Dinger City videos, and even in my experience, his singles bat just lands for so many singles. He has a great star hit. You don't need the star hit, though, but if you want to go for a double with him, use the 1 star, then that's an option too. But his singles bat's just so good. He has super catch, which is... I wish he was able to play the infield because I would love to have more super catch options in the infield. But he plays center field just fine. His speed's good enough to get to a lot of balls. You don't have to jump for balls to try to catch them. Toadsworth, just very solid of a character. He's pretty much up here because of his singles bat. If his singles bat was, let's say, only as good as like a Luigi tier singles bat. It's kind of standard, not the best, but not the worst, but it's just kind of like average, If his singles bat was like that, he might not be a pickable character, but his singles bat's just so good. So that's why I have him at number 10. And lastly, we have Magikoopa. Magikoopa, easily the best corner baseman in the game. I prefer to play him at third base. He's so tall, he's so big hitbox. Singles bat, it's fine. It's good, but I think people overrate his singles bat a lot, saying like, oh, it's a great singles bat. I think his star hit's very great. I think it's one of the best star hits in the game or the best 1 stars. But you mainly draft Magikoopa because he saves so many balls that go to kind of the third base foul line area. He catches the balls above him. He catches the balls below him. Whereas, say, if you have a King Boo on third base, sometimes King Boo jumps over the ball. Sometimes King Boo kind of gets glitched a little. Magikoopa does have magical catch, which she can reel in some balls sometimes to her left or right. It's just Magikoopa, so good. You draft him because his fielding's fantastic. He'll never bobble a ball if magical catch doesn't activate. So if it's hit right at him, he catches it every time, no bobbles. But sometimes you try to do the magical catch with him and the sparkles won't show during the animation. And if the sparkles aren't showing, then that's how you know it's going to be a bobble. So it's very rare that it happens. But Magikoopa is just a magnet over at third base. He's so reliable. I love him over there. And here we got the meta gap tier. Now, I've come to thinking a lot of how Mario Baseball is played and how games are won. And I thought there was a clear, distinct top 11, which don't get me wrong, there is. But there's definitely a cutoff. I initially thought there was a cutoff at the top 6. And I originally had this tier a little bit ordered differently and my top sixes differently, but I think there's a clear consensus top 8 as to these are the 8 best characters in the game, and they are so good that they are 2 tiers above the next high tier, which I think is saying something because here's why I think this. We're going to start things off here with Birdo at number 8. And Birdo literally wins games off of her star hit. It's RNG. Sometimes it's caught for double plays. Sometimes it lands in the outfield, goes for extra bases, drives in 2 runs at least. It's just, there's no skill behind, well, I shouldn't say that. There's still some skill on when to swing the bat, but more often than not, you just kind of hope and pray. You just hold R, press A, do the star swing, and it's going to do numbers for you. It's just such a nice RBI swing, and obviously the object of the game is to score runs, and Birdo's just such a great option. Even if she's not your captain, I will do a 2-star Birdo egg every day of the week if I have runners on base and the situation calls for it. And not only that, she has a nice throwing arm. Even personally, if I have both DK and Birdo on my team, I still play Birdo at shortstop over Donkey Kong. Obviously, Donkey Kong is the better throwing arm, and his dive range is still decent. I just feel like more balls get hit over to the left side of the infield, and Birdo's suck is so good at catching those line drives that are to the left or right of her. It's just her fielding's so good. Her singles bat is not the best, and that's why she's honestly this low. If her singles bat was as good as Yoshi's and Boo's, then I think she's easily above Hammer Bro and King Boo in my opinion. But in order for her to be the most effective, you do have to captain her. So there's a lot of factors. You got to captain her. You got to have enough stars to use her star swings. But her fielding alone is still good enough to be in this top 8 tier. And her star swing is just so good that there's a separation between Magikoopa and Birdo. So that's why I have her at number 8. Next, we got King Boo. In my opinion, the least consistent home run character now. I know a lot of people disagree. Just for my personal use, I think he's the hardest to hit home runs with. Now, he's still a very solid home run hitter. Like, he's not like a Pink Menace or a Wario, you know. If he hits the ball, there's a good chance it can go over the fence. But it's very tricky. I consider him and Boomerang Bro to be kind of similar, where you kind of have to hit the ball right, and a lot of times the ball can go foul, just to the outside part of the foul pole towards the foul ball. It can be very frustrating. But if you're dedicated and you're really good with King Boo, you can hit home runs. Obviously, got like Peacock Slayer, in my opinion, the best King Boo hitter in the game's ever seen. But his slap hit, it's decent. Very rarely it can go for doubles if you have him lefty. And his star hit, it's kind of a gimmick. People say it's good. I don't think it's worth the 1 star to use personally. But he is an optionable character. He has options. He can go for the slap. He can go for the home run. And he plays a good third base. Personally, I still prefer Magikoopa at third base, but he does play the corner base as well, and he does have a good throwing arm. And his chemistry is with Boo and PD Piranha, which are, as you can see, two top 5 characters in the game, so that's also really nice. Next up, we got Hammer Bro, or Boomerang Bro. Hammer Bro, such a great home run hitter, but that's all he can do. His slap hit is awful. And even with Boomerang Bro, well, okay, so Fire Bro's slap hit is actually awful. It's the worst slap hit in the game. Hammer Bro's slap hit, also pretty bad. And Boomerang Bro's slap hit, compared to Boo's, it's horrendous. Now, there are rare times where you can get it to land for doubles. But Hammer Bro, you're mainly drafting him to hit bombs. And that's the only reason he's this high up. He's arguably the second most consistent home run hitter in the game, right behind Bowser. It's just he does nothing in the field. He can't play the field at all. Everyone's got to stick him at catcher. He only has a 60 throwing arm, and in my opinion, the stealing meta should be on the rise, and it's very important. If you have Hammer Bro at catcher, you're not going to throw out speed characters majority of the time. So that's why I have Hammer Bro at 6. Hammer or Boomerang Bro, it's preference. I think right now I'm preferring Hammer Bro if I'm just trying to hit home runs on the Bowser team, because especially on the Bowser team, your main home run threats are going to be Bowser, Hammer Bro, maybe sometimes King Boo if you choose that route to draft King Boo also. But you got to hit home runs with Bro. And I feel like Boomerang Bro, he's too inconsistent at the home runs, even though he does have options to pull for the home run or go push for the home run. He can't hit to all sides of the field for home runs. It's just Hammer Bro's way more consistent. And I think if you have him on a Bowser team, you need him to hit home runs. So that's why I prefer Hammer Bro, even though Boomerang Bro does have more options at the plate. Next, we got Boo. Boo's on the rise for me. He was kind of towards the back end of the top 8, kind of near Birdo, but Boo is so insanely valuable, it's ridiculous. In my opinion, he's the best pitcher in the game, and I don't think it's close. He's the best pitcher in the game, not because, well, obviously he can still pitch the ball great, but his singles bat's so good. It lands for doubles. It's a singles bat that lands for doubles somewhat consistently, and you don't have to use a star on it, and his pitching is such at a faster pace than, let's say, compared to a Diddy Kong or a Waluigi. It's just, he's nasty. He's really good at jamming hitters with his hard curves inside. And his singles bat's just so good. He has chemistry with Wario and King Boo, so which just helps out kind of like the Wario core if you want to draft Wario. It's just, I love Boo. I honestly think it's worth picking him in the top 6 picks of the draft. Even top 5 picks of the draft at some point, just because he's the best pitcher in the game and he can hit singles that lands for doubles and can score runs that way. I love Boo. Boo's just great. His only downside is that he doesn't have a secondary position. But in my opinion, if you're giving up 7+ runs a game, then you probably aren't playing that well. So if he does get tired, you can maybe stick him at first base. His hitbox is just so small. He's a liability in the field if he's not on the pitcher's mound. That's Boo's only weakness. But in my opinion, if you're a great player, you should not be giving up 7+ runs a game, and he should be on the pitcher's mound the entire time. So that's why I have Boo at number 5. Next up, we got Yoshi. Yoshi is a character that's meta-breaking in his own way. He's the best fielder in the game. It's not even close. He has the fastest speed. He has the best dive range with the tongue catch. His only downside in the field is his throwing arm is very weak. So even if you have him in left field, which is his best position and stars off, he's able to stop balls, but sometimes runners can go from first to second on a double if a ball is hit down the left field line because his throwing arm is so weak. Unless you have a Birdo at second base, then maybe Yoshi's throw will get there in time, but you draft him for his fielding and his speed, in my opinion. The 9 speed, if he gets on base, it's a stolen base every time unless Petey's the catcher. But his egg ball, as a singles bat, I'm very down on it. I think if you have Birdo in the infield, if you hit it to Birdo, she sucks it up right in front of her very consistently. Kind of Magic Koopa too, if you kind of hit it towards the corner bases, Magic Koopa does a great job of kind of absorbing it because his hitbox is so big. And Donkey Kong as well has success fielding the Yoshi egg as well. So I'm trending down on the Yoshi star swing. But you draft him for the speed. You draft him because he's the best fielder in the game. He can get to anything. And his singles bat is very, very solid. If you just press A, more often than not, you're going to get on base. Very consistent singles bat. I'd say easily a top 7 singles bat in the game. So yeah, that's why Yoshi's at 4. And here, I think this is the clear top 3, and it's not even close. So we're going to start things off with Petey. I love Petey Piranha. I've been on the Petey Piranha train for so long. I've been preaching to people to play him at catcher because it's literally a meta-defining position because he has the strongest throwing arm in the game at 100. He negates steals. It's plain and simple. Even if you have Yoshi and Toadette on first trying to steal second base with perfect steals, Petey throws him out. And not only that, Petey has chemistry with King Boo and Birdo and Donkey Kong. And as you can see, those are 3 top 8 characters. That's pretty good if you ask me. Now, because of that, a lot of people like playing him at first base because, you have the chemistry dream infield. You got King Boo at third base, Donkey Kong shortstop, Birdo second base. Any balls hit to them, you have chemistry throw to first base. People need to stop playing that. Petey at first base is a liability because, unfortunately, they programmed his hitbox to be one of the smallest in the game. It's one of the 9 smallest hitboxes in the game. For some reason, they just didn't want to program a hitbox on his giant head that you think would be so great at catching so many balls. It just goes right through. It just goes right through the head. He's a liability at first base. Sure, he can still catch some balls if they're low enough, but all the balls that other characters would catch, so let's say a Magikoopa or any other character with super jump, they catch them. PD Piranha doesn't, and that costs you singles. Which, in my opinion, those hits happen more often than say, oh, we have a little dribbler to the left side of the infield. I need this Donkey Kong chemistry throw to throw him out. Like, sure, those situations come up, but nowhere near as enough as the slap hits to first base. So I hate PD at first base. Play him at catcher. He literally negates steals. He negates, in my opinion, a fourth of the meta, which the meta being hitting, fielding, pitching, and base running, or slash stealing. And PD at catcher negates that for your opponent. That's why he's so good. That's why he should be drafted in the top 3 every time, regardless of draft line you go. If you're doing Nolan draft, you do Bowser first pick. Okay, next person. The next pick should always be DK PD every time. Because you get chemistry between both of them. You get 2 home run hitters. And you literally get meta-defining players at their positions with DK in the middle infield and PD respectively. And not only that, this dude hits crazy bombs. His power is tied with Bowser for one of the strongest in the game. It's just his contact zone compared to Bowser's is the smallest in the game. But if you get good with PD, you hit bombs for days, and when you have so many chemistry on base with a Donkey Kong slap hit or a Birdo egg getting on base before him, it just makes his power even more consistent with home runs. And on top of that, folks, we're not done yet. He has a great slap hit if you push the ball. It's very similar to Donkey Kong's. I love doing it as a 2-strike approach to get on base. I'm so passionate about PD Piranha because he's in the same tier as Bowser and DK, and I know it's crazy to say. I think this is a clear top 3 in the game. Like it's that crazy. Like if I have to remake this list right now, I'm literally moving these 5 characters down into this tier and probably putting a separate tier for Bowser, DK, and PD. That's how great of the characters I think they are. PD's so great, best chemistry tree in the game, one of the best home run hits in the game. Great slap hit going the other way. Strongest throwing arm. Throws base runners out. You need to draft PD. Top 3 every time. There's no excuse. He's that great of a character. So enough of PD. We're going to move on to Donkey Kong, who is another fantastic character. He has great dive range in the middle infield. He has a laser. He has a strong throwing arm. Unfortunately, his second ability is Clamber, which is completely useless in the meta right now because you're not going to be playing Donkey Kong in the outfield anytime soon. So just take this wonderful journey with me. If DK had Super Catch as a second ability, that would literally mind blown. Laser Super Catch middle infield, it would be crazy. But unfortunately, he doesn't. But he's still great nonetheless. Strong throwing arm to first base. Great slap hit. He's the Swiss Army knife of Mario Superstar Baseball. You can slap the ball with him. You can charge for home runs. He's still a great home run hitter in my opinion. Honestly, I think better than King Boo. And his start hit's great. It's the most consistent start hit in the game. If you hit into the gap, if you have bases loaded, Yoshi on first base, it's scoring 3 runs every time if it goes towards that center field wall. It's just, he's so good. DK, laser's such a great ability, and he has it. He has a great slap hit. Home runs. Star swing. I love DK. DK, PD easily should be your 2-3 picks every time, and I can't state that enough. And lastly, we have Bowser. Bowser, in my opinion, is trending down a little bit, but not enough to push him below DK yet. But it's getting very close, honestly, because in my experience, the Bowser team is losing majority of the time because Bowser just gets walked. Now, you can say, oh, if he's getting walked, it's a free runner on base. It raises your chance of scoring each time he gets walked because you're getting a free runner on base, which is true. But unfortunately, in a stars off meta, we're in a meta where the only way you're scoring runs is if you're hitting dingers, if you have a crazy star hitter up to get extra bases, or you're just getting a bunch of singles in a row. And if you're taking away Bowser's best ability, which is hitting home runs and scoring a lot of runs with runners on base via the home run, it nerfs him. And it's very unfortunate because Bowser's not a threat. You could just walk him and hope you and most likely Bro's up next. Just go for the strikeout on Bro. Now, fielding wise, he plays a great first base. He has laser, or if you want, you can stick him at catcher. His throwing arm is better than Hammer Bro's. It's not a guarantee to throw runners out every time because he's not PD Piranha, but he can do that. Laser at first base, it's a strong laser, and he has great chemistry because he has chemistry with Bro, Bowser Jr., Dry Bones, Paratroopa. He's still great because he's the best home run hitter in the game, and home runs are the most important part of the game. But it's struggling for him. I feel like I think DK's catching up, and I wouldn't be surprised if DK ends up passing Bowser if more people are just committed to walk Bowser, and Bowser's just not doing anything for his team because all he does is get on base, and then you're relying on your other Bowser team members to drive him in, and usually a lot of the times it's Bro, or you got to use 2 stars on a Birdo egg or a Mario fireball, whatever, and it's hard to score runs on the Bowser team sometimes. Now there are the rare situations. Let's say you get the 3 batters ahead of Bowser on base, and Bowser comes up bases loaded. That's the dream scenario, but how often in the game are you gonna have an opponent that's letting you get on base 3 times in a row? It's like maybe once if your opponent's pitching great, but it's like it's just so hard to force that scenario to where you kind of have to pitch to Bowser or you just give him the free run. It's just Bowser, he's still the best in the game because he's the character that you have to walk, and that's a strong presence. You have to have him as your captain in Nolan draft because if he wasn't your captain, if you had a 1-star swinger in Birdo or DK, it makes the Bowser team crazy good. But Bowser, still a great character, hits the long ball better than everyone else. Great bat reach, great contact zone for home runs. That's why he's still at number 1. But do not be surprised if this big monkey behind him comes up and takes the spot one day. But that has been it. This is, hope you all enjoyed. Oh, looks like Belle the dog still stayed here. I'll bring her up one last time for the sign off. So I hope you all enjoyed this tier list from yours truly, MattyIce. And let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope this video didn't last as long. I tried to breeze through the lower tier characters fairly quickly. But this is my tier list for Season 8 / the first post-Rio release tier list. A lot of changes I made, most notably Luigi and Daisy getting moved up a lot, Peach a little bit, and the top 8 kind of getting switched around in this whole new tier gap. But that's going to be it. Thank you all for watching. Please leave comments, what you think, what you agree, disagree with. I'd love to have a discussion. I love talking everything Mario Baseball. And until next time, guys, I will see you some other time, maybe in a couple months for another tier list. Thank you all for watching.